having seizures. In Ethiopia, where I work, I'll talk about it later on, but we have a lot of women with burn injuries. So it's really not a nice thing for you to show that face, to show that arm and walk around, and added stigma on the within the community. So I actually think women are even, stronger than men dealing with epilepsy because of the demand that's put on them. I just wanted to make this point. And I don't mean that you said it in a negative way, just wanted to clarify the perspective. Thank you.
So I came across a case like that. Sorry to interrupt you. I came across a case like that in Rwanda long ago when I started GECO, the Global Epilepsy Connection. And one man came to tell me that he proposed a girlfriend, that they're gonna get married. So the lady did not know that the man has epilepsy, cognitive seizures, like shaking. So when the man fell down, the woman withdrew herself from getting married to him, and it would be like 1 week. So the man was in state of committing suicide. Say, who gonna accept me? So sometimes in Africa, we need also to value men a bit, and know that some of the men, they don't accept to get to a journey where they start marriage, and sometimes they commit suicide before that weakness appear in front of people, because they nominate them as a weak. For example, if he's in bed with his wife and get a seizures, and they spend like 1 year without having a child, that woman can also accuse the man that he is weak, etc. You get my point? Yeah. So that also is my challenge on that. That they have to be protected for that. So.
Okay, what I was talking about when I talked of weakness, I do not generalize women. Mm-hmm. What I meant, I was talking of that in perspective. Just in my case, because most of the time I used to get pressure from my wife to do certain. Epilepsy is surrounded by several myths and misconceptions. So when somebody tells her that we should go for some prayer somewhere, she used to pressurize me to do that, and sometimes I reject. Then she gets annoyed. Sometimes she has been told so many things about my condition that could be solution to help me cure. And most of the time, I do reject because I believe the medication I'm using is perfect. I'm doing well with the medication. So that is what that is the perspective I was referring to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, I get that from you, Bernard. You're more referring to how obviously your wife, as somebody who supports you, is emotionally attached to the condition, and how you feel to the point that, she will always recommend, and, sometimes it comes across as you see it as weakness because it's not believing that you're doing everything possible to make sure that you get rid of these conditions because of the stigma and the misconceptions and what people think epilepsy is about. It's just the emotional tie to her wanting you to do so much better, and wanting you to do as much as possible to see, and she just wants to see you to be okay. And sometimes it makes them, recommend or take not, I wouldn't say good decisions, but get involved in things probably you, who knows the condition better, who knows yourself better, that you wouldn't go for, because obviously that going for prayers is not going to cure your epilepsy. And that's the emotional kind of thing I believe you're referring to, which is understandable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think Giallo has understood me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can go also for certain points. For example, Some women also are afraid and have a fears to speak about the challenge about the epilepsy and the drugs for their one partner, or even people who work with them in the team. And in Africa, we have that challenge of having the misconception about epilepsy that is a caste. And that woman is rejected in all scenario events. They cannot even give them a leadership at work because they think that they have abnormalities. But if you see now Africa start to develop, you see so many women now start to raise the profile, having a degree, masters. You can find now, because they start to be self-employed, you find some success men, some success women, or some success women with epilepsy having their own enterprise development, having their own branding, and they don't need a boss to undermine or scrutinize them because of that disease. But at the end, the challenge of Africa actually is how they are stigmatized with their own intellectual property. They don't want even to accept them, and they keep rejecting them, and they discourage them. But if you see, for example, the society in UK, for example, those who fight for the rights achieve to finish school. They have better futures. And they get to any careers they believe to do. There is an open attitude of tolerance, of even someone with a beginning of even autism, which is in the middle or not very aggressive. Sometimes you can see each county with a school of activities of those children. But for us, I witnessed so many in Rwanda, girls who get dismissed to the boarding school because every time when a girl sleep at night, they call the director to say, oh, this girl keep failing, we cannot take her, so she need to go back to her place. So you're gonna find that girl, spend 1 year with no school. And every time the challenge happening, she gets bullied by his friend. So when the friend finish the boarding, come, for example, for holiday, they ask, are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. But they cannot accept her 100% because they see that this is not a normal person. And we found that through the research of Ubumunu, the epilepsy, the meaning of epilepsy is like a caste, devil, etc. In any language, even in Wolof, in Swahili. Swahili is better because it's Kifafa. But in Rwandan, Igichuri, it means someone flipped down. Does not have his brain is down, so his leg is upset, such thing. But for me, I think that those names need to be redrawn. The way we fight about albinism, we need to fight about epilepsy for those people not to have a challenge in any sectors of integrity in the one county. So I can give my word to Adam Janetu to explain what motivates her to do exactly the FACE Association, Foundation for People with Epilepsy in our country. And we're gonna go through her story, the challenge her brother gets on getting the right treatment, and also how she wants to improve that legislation by working with the empowerment of women in these countries. And we congratulate your First Ladies for what you did here at University of, is it Lancashire or?
Warwick
Universities. And I think that her voice produced change for her society. And I think the way she do the activism of showing the position they need to put the children with, I think many of the one school gonna adapt it for every teachers to have a chance to save life of that children, and that children can get an assistant teachers to continue, not every time to repeat his year. Thank you, Adam. Can you go ahead?
Thank you so much, Chantal, and everyone here today to share this platform to talk about the challenges faced by women with epilepsy. I always, when we talked about this webinar, I felt like today I will talk as a family member of a person living with epilepsy, and probably share more my mother's story than my brother, because we're talking about women, and obviously myself as somebody who has a child who's living positively with epilepsy in UK here. Now, the reason why I actually co-founded this foundation to look after or to improve the lives of people living with epilepsy in the Gambia is because of my own experience as a sibling, and also seeing what my mother is going through throughout the years. And to top it all, it's the outcome of where my brother is. Just to say that my brother is still alive, Chantel. Just the
He's still
outcome.
alive.
Yeah, he's still alive, but obviously he cannot do much with his life. He's totally disabled now, and my mother, has
Sorry
sacrificed her
about
own
that.
life to look. It's a right to look after him. So for me, my mother, first of all, when she gave birth to my brother was born normal, went home after 3 days, and that's when my brother started having seizures. But because knowledge about epilepsy it's lacking among healthcare professionals in the Gambia, he wasn't diagnosed as somebody who has epilepsy, but my mother was told that my brother was not going to be normal, and she was given the option to end my brother's life, or does she want to keep my brother. So obviously my mother, made the brave decision to say that, you know what, I do not choose who lives and who doesn't live. That's the child I have, and I'm going to look after him until, we'll see what happens. So she went home with my brother, not knowing anything about epilepsy, and just took on the challenges. Nobody told her what epilepsy is about, what help my brother needed. All she was given is medication, and she had to just give medication, and that was it. So going through life, my brother was okay at the beginning, going to school. My mom works and still look after everybody else in the house. I am one of five, so it's a busy household. And my brother was learning normal, counting 1, 2, 3, ABC, speaking English and everything. But throughout the years, his condition deteriorated. But we still don't know the reason why, because I never had the opportunity to be educated about epilepsy. So I didn't know what was happening. For me, sometimes I felt that because I am the direct sibling under my brother, I used to believe as well that at some point, whatever that's in my brother will come to me. I had that belief as a child because we did not know anything about epilepsy. And it just highlights the importance of sharing platforms like this. So for my brother, he started going to school, and just like Chantel, you mentioned, the structure in schools does not look after children like that, not because they don't want to, but because they don't know. The lack of knowledge about epilepsy is the biggest challenge in countries like Africa. So my brother would have halts at school, and because it was very close to my house, it's like all the children knew where my house was. They will have to run to our house. Nobody will touch my brother because they do believe it's contagious. So they'll have to run to the house to get somebody from the house, usually my mom, to go all the way to the school to check to obviously look after my brother, because nobody will touch him. And even when he was okay at school, children used to tease him because he looked different. So they always used to call him names. And that was even the reason why he was having more seizures. And we know with epilepsy, the more seizures that you have, the more damage it does, to the point, and with all the stress and the shame that the society puts on people like this, my mom had to stop working, give up her career. And as parents as well, they decided to remove my brother from school. And today I actually commend every parent that have chosen to leave their children at school, especially those with epilepsy, you know, to carry on with despite all the challenges. Because for me, my family, the challenge was a bit too much, and it was decided that, you know, they had to make the decision to stop my brother from going to school. So he ended up staying at home. And on top of that, he has been beating in, you know, on the streets, because people just see him and feel like he's weak and just started teasing him and, beating him to the point where he will just lie on the ground and nobody will actually help him. So these are challenges that my mother went through. But what we fail to understand is as well the emotional side of, you know, what society puts to parents and carers of people with epilepsy, or especially children with epilepsy. So nobody could see that my mom was not a happy person. It wasn't, it was not something that even I couldn't see that. It's only when I started doing epilepsy, work in epilepsy, I realized, whoa, how did my mom cope with all of this? To the point where she gave up her whole career to look after my brother. And up to today, she does not trust anybody with my brother. I'm thinking maybe that's the reason why he's still alive. The care that, she has, she takes it on her to make sure that my brother is okay. So for me today, what I want to say, especially us that are sharing this platform, we like to, most of the time we share stories about the person living with epilepsy. And I have been on platforms where they talk about that, the fact that we share just the negative side of how epilepsy affects, whether it's women or children with epilepsy. But I believe that no story should take priority. Every single story matters, because there will be one person or two people or even more than that that are going to learn, whether it's a positive outcome, whether it's a negative outcome. No story takes priority. And today, it was Eid yesterday. I have a full house, but I felt that I have to be here today just to share, my mother's story, looking after not only the challenges faced by my brother, but also what she had to go through. Today, she downplays her health because we insist on getting a carer for my brother, because she's now, my mom is now almost 80 years old, but she is the main carer of my brother. And up to today, she does not want anybody to take up that responsibility, and she downplays her health to be able for us, so that we don't insist on getting a helper. And I know we have to, but up to today, anybody we take there, she will complain that they are not doing it properly. So this is just something I wanted to share. And just like what Chantel have mentioned, if we have systems and institutions that can assist families that are going through situations like that, it will actually really help make sure that their well-being is taken care of, and that they're okay, even if it's, we need these societies. And like I said, no story takes priority over the other. We want to hear about the positives, we want to hear about negatives, and that's the only way the society will be educated with, when it comes to epilepsy, because it's a condition that affects so many people and so differently as well. No one case is the same. So the more we share, the more educated people will be, and then the more acceptable society will become when it comes to epilepsy, and then, and obviously the stigma that people with epilepsy face. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for your summary. And I think that the legislation like the UNCPRD law, the United Nations Convention for Rights of Disability, involve epilepsy as part of it. So many countries which adopt it, they create an exempt tax for those who have epilepsy. Like in Kenya, once one of the professor presented, he said that he has an exempt tax. That is an example for Africa. We can say, for example, the inclusiveness of them, for example, having careers, job, etc. I think majority of the women, because they don't finish the studies, they don't get a job. They have to have a fund coming from any place to set them up for a better life. And I think that child legislation policy is not even in Africa, it's not even applied positively for them as disabled. They are excluded on the list of disabilities. Even in Rwanda, we propose it to the Federation of the Disabled, but they have not yet agreed to sign it. Some disabled do not agree that epilepsy is a disability, and they don't understand it. And I think that the sectors of neurology also, we need to be very cautious as patients. It's us who consume the drugs, but we cannot agree them to challenge us by just presenting epilepsy days as a day of epilepsy. And those who have epilepsy do not even have a forum, a national forum. Because through the national forum is where we may raise the legislation right of those women, is where we may raise, for example, the right of anyone not get stigmatized due to epilepsy. A husband who abuses his wife due to epilepsy has to be punished. And we need also to make sure that each school has no right to exclude a child due to epilepsy. They need to put an assistant teacher for that child, and that child has to be very good and have a good improvement on his studies. And for me, I think that Dr. Jacob Mugumbate is on right side to explain Ubuntu, which is also part of the African Indaba voice. You give for free for your community, you discuss free, and you get a resolution through the challenge you face. And I can give my word to Enat also to explain what motivates her today as an advocate, brilliant as Adam, Roslyn, Mugumbate, Leslie, and others who are not even here, to make sure that such legislation, after her, even she passed away, that organization will carry on an ideology of raising rights of patients. Thank you, Enat, please. Can you?
Okay, thank you, Chantel. Okay, so my story starts at the age of 17, where I was first diagnosed with epilepsy. I was actually on my way from school to home, to going home, and I had a seizure sometime somewhere in between. And when I woke up, I was in somebody else's house, lying on a bed. So many people looking at me like, oh gosh, you know, this is the devil. So do you have holy water and the prayer and all that? And I remember waking up thinking, hold on a second, what am I doing here? I can't remember what happened. I can't remember how I got to that place. So I remember I got up and I literally ran home because I was so scared of what had happened. That day, I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell anyone that anything happened to me because I was scared. I really was, what happened? Because I didn't have any recollection of that time that was lost in between. So, and then after 2-3 days after that, I had another seizure. And then I remember telling my mom that I fainted. It was actually at home, but no one was at home. And then, of course, another seizure. And luckily, my parents knew that epilepsy was treatable, still thinking that has something to do with the devil, but still thinking that at least that I need to be taken to hospital, which I'm very grateful for. And I was told that I had epilepsy. And luckily, immediately I left for England, and I've lived in England for 30 plus years. Living with epilepsy is a challenge. It brings a lot of issues and problems with it. I always say epilepsy, it's like an octopus kind of, kind of animal in a sense, because it's not just the one. There's so many parts that come with it, and equally painful, equally needs intervention and treatment. So that starts from the physical injury. I have generalized seizures, so most of my seizures throughout my lifetime has been on the road, walking, going here and going there, which ended up having about 14 operation surgeries as a result of various different surgeries. And I remember one of the worst was when I was pregnant with my son, and I was 8 months pregnant, and I had a seizure. And I remember when I woke up, I was so sure that I lost my baby. And I kind of clearly remember that they had to, they had to give me morphine, and they had to actually make me fall asleep with medication, because I was so anxious, agitated, and crying, and all that sort. And so luckily, thanks to God, I have a lovely boy who's 24 now, and healthy, no seizures, no epilepsy. So it is, as Chantel has been saying, just because you have epilepsy doesn't mean that if you give birth that your child will have epilepsy. So it's, although there is the genetic side of epilepsy, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it will directly pass on to your children. And then of course the second part was the emotional challenge of having epilepsy. I think honestly speaking, the first 5 years were times and days where I kept on telling myself, why me? What have I done? I really felt like it was something like God was punishing me, although I didn't know what it was for or what I've done. So it was very difficult, because you fall down and you have the injuries, you have, it's just to process the whole thing, the injuries, the accidents, and the vulnerability. And I think that is the worst part, because I don't know whether I'll have a seizure while I'm talking to you. I don't know when I'm going to have a seizure. So I remember the first 5 years, if I was asked to do anything, I'll say no, 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 always drawing back. Because if I go out and I have a seizure, and what will happen? Again, in my mind thinking, what do people think of me? And then with relationships, you're young and you think, oh my gosh, would somebody want me? Would I have a relationship? All you go through. So you kind of feel.
It's a problem.
No sé.
I think the internet is broken, but
yeah, that's okay. She'll I'm thinking she'll probably join back again at some point. But I'm really happy to actually have Annette on this platform, because as person who's leading an epilepsy support organization, we do come across women that have been told that they cannot have kids because they've got epilepsy. And that's the belief they have, you see. And because they don't know anything better, that's just how they're going to grow up. And that's what they know, because there's no other thing that they know. They haven't been educated about their condition. So they don't know anything. They just, whatever they have been told, that's what they're going to carry on. So I'm really glad that Annette have raised the fact that she does have a child. And then another important aspect that she has spoken about is also the vulnerability. I have come across a woman, with the job that we do in the Gambia, who was raped while she had a seizure at night. She was out at night, has a seizure, and then she got raped. The family did not, because obviously that gap you have when you have an episode, you don't know what happened. She literally just started having, the tummy was just growing, and everybody was wondering what was happening. And then, you know, people believe that she's just been out there sleeping with men, but she didn't even know that she was pregnant. And because somebody, you know, the vulnerability that Annette mentioned is actually real, especially in places like you know, it's not only in Africa, it's everywhere. And imagine this person, a lady living with epilepsy end up having a child that she does not even know who the father is because he was raped, and nobody talks about it in the family. You know, I heard about the story through somebody that covers activities, and it's among their family or somebody that she knows, and these are things that we have to share. And this way, if you are a parent of a girl child living with epilepsy, you will make sure that you take the right step to make sure that they are safe. And even where you know, these cases in countries like ours in Africa, it's very difficult to take a rape case and actually to court and win the case
Yes.
for any woman, let alone somebody living with epilepsy. So for us, the prevention is that's where the effort should be, and knowing how epilepsy affects a girl child is very important in terms of the carer making sure that, you know, the everything in place to make sure the child is safe. So I'm really glad these are the 2 points that I picked up because we come across stories like this a lot. So
Yeah,
I mean,
even in Rwanda in 1915 with Gecko in Rubavu, I came across a girl who got raped. They called us and they said they raped her. She was going home with a grocery, etc. And then she fell down. Straight away, the guy who was there raped her. But the chance of the government of Rwanda, so the police department intervened on time, and they did, for example, such autopsy. They collect the sperm and they match it. They find it's the man who did it, and straight away that guy spent 5 years in jail. But they did also assessment for the miscarriage of the baby, but they give her just a morning pill and start follow her to see if she doesn't have other STD disease. And I think now that story marked the whole country, no one to touch them sexually. And I'm happy for that. But regardless, in Africa, many of the women are raped and abused sexually during seizures, and they don't know what is happening. And I think that we need to make sure that every time she fell pregnant, if she doesn't know that, she has rights to report it. And that guy need to be locked down. People who be around and keep even the information hide for the person not to be penalized, those also need to be, because they are complicities of the crime. Yeah, they are playing complicities. So let me give Leslie a little bit of word, and then we go to Roslyn. We still have time, and we can go to Tanaka to do her presentation. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I've had epilepsy now for coming up for 50 years. And my mother, she was protective, but she didn't stop me or me doing anything I wanted to do as long as I was safe. My epilepsy started at 16, and it was during ECG exams, and also during the puberty. And I firmly believe even today that my seizures are related to hormones. And I'm just trying to put it into word. So I basically, as I was going through my teens and left school, I married, and the marriage lasted for 4 years. I never saw my husband. He worked at nighttime. I worked during the daytime. So we drifted apart. He didn't understand my epilepsy at that time. And sorry. So I think our marriage only lasted 5 years. Then I got divorced, and my divorce broke me. I was on my own. I went into a shell, basically just closed up, didn't want to see anybody for about 6 years.
6 years,
And
yeah.
Eventually, my mom was great. I've had a wonderful mom. She always gave me the willpower, and she always told me to, sorry.
Don't worry, take your time, because we use that.
Yeah, so she always said to me,
yeah.
she always said to me, don't let your epilepsy rule your life. You do what you want to do. And if you want to, as long as you say, sorry.
No, take your time. Take your time.
Anyway, my divorce took 3 years to go through in Zimbabwe. Eventually, I had a friend. She said to me, you're not going to sit there all day long. You're coming and you're going to join a dating club. So I joined it, and then met my husband, done some weird and wonderful thing. And we've been married 15 years now. Sorry, 35 years.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is when I went into my marriage, I made the decision not to have children. The gynecologist, I had very strict instructions. I was allowed to, but I made the decision. I was afraid. I was afraid of dropping a child because I didn't get any warning before a seizure. And my decision, it was a very difficult decision, but I had to look at it logically. And I love children. I always love children, but I just thought for the safety point of view. So I had a full hysterectomy, and that was in my 30s. So people mustn't be afraid.
You are right. Yeah.
Yeah, people mustn't be afraid of having epilepsy. I always wanted to have a child, but it was the no warning signal that what would happen if I had that child, dropped it, and then the baby had brain damage or some particular problem. And that made me go through a full hysterectomy. And then I went on to HRT. And I was on HRT for many, many years, about 30 years, and hormone replacement therapy. And then, of course, I left South Africa, and my whole medication and everything changed. But I still love children. I still would have loved to have had a child. So they mustn't think that they cannot have child.
So thank you for your story. It is very good story, because epilepsy, there is different type of epilepsy on women. And sometimes some women experience many challenges during the therapy and the change of the drugs. And that we witness it through me. Example is the same story like Leslie. You see like the hormone changed in your body sometimes affect you to have a polycystic ovarian syndrome. But mine disappeared naturally. I did not have any inconvenience to conceive. But for me, I understand that some women, when they are afraid, for example, depend on your journey. How did you get accepted in the community? And you say, how can I carry a baby if myself I'm not fit to be well? And I think that we need to challenge that and change it to a positively, because now in Africa, we have 10 million of people suffering for epilepsy. Among the 10 million, we have 60% are women, 700,000. But majority of them, they have children. But the way to do that, even a woman giving birth, they need to have a carers to help the woman 24 hours until the baby becomes fit to walk, to talk, etc. And that may be well. And I think it is good for us to challenge also the Western society sometimes. A woman can have a child and they withdraw that child on the birth on the table of the birth without telling the woman with the seizures you cannot carry a baby. So I think that legislation is sometimes not giving justice to those who want to procreate and have families. And those who are out of marriage, they don't allow them, they took the child and they put them on social policies and adopt them without, and that is a crime somehow, because that policy is not applied in America, it's not applied in other EU countries, but it's applying in here, Sweden, for example, and UK, they apply it. So women who have seizures do not live with a partner. They are under risk sometimes of getting withdrawn the baby because they're afraid that even she has a baby, she may have a controlled seizures, but she can kill the baby by stepping on her baby. Yeah.
And I just have a little, by the way, I've never really heard Leslie's story, and we all know Leslie, how she supports every and any organization. Most of our
she gives half of her income to many activities.
For the Foundation for Epilepsy and Stigma Support in Gambia, most of the stories that we share, Leslie is the one who edits it, despite being busy living with epilepsy and having seizures. She actually supports in any way that she can. And can I just say that your story is actually inspiring, and I respect you more even today. And two things I want to comment is to do with, the informed choice that you have taken. And that is really important in empowering people with epilepsy. The fact that you know the pros and cons, and it was your choice to take a decision, whatever decision that you have taken, it was your choice. Society
my
did
choice.
not. Yes, and this is where, advocacy, us people that advocate for people with epilepsy, it's very important. This informed choice is very important, and that can only happen through education. So I don't know how your transition from being a pediatric, being with a pediatric clinic with your epilepsy, to transitioning to an adult clinic. Did you have any conversation regarding, if you wanted to become married, whether you wanted to have kids? Because I think it's important for guidelines for especially women with epilepsy when transitioning to adulthood, or seeing an adult neurologist or specialist. What questions should these women be asking? Or what is the healthcare professional? What is the information that is important to be given to the patient?
Well, when I had my first marriage, it wasn't long enough to actually think of children. All right. And then after remarrying, I had to think hard because I was having more seizures and I was having tonic-clonic seizures. The tonic-clonic seizures were lasting 35 minutes long. All right. And my husband now, he had 2 girls from his first marriage, and I didn't have any children. So we together had to make that decision. Initially, I tried to have my tubes tied, and then I made the decision later on in my early 30s, because the fear of dropping the child was more important to me from a logical point of view than and not having a warning, it actually frightened me to know that I would not be able to care for that baby if something dreadful happened to it just by dropping it.
Yeah.
And not having a warning was the main decision. But I chatted to, obviously, my doctor. I went to my doctor. I was scared, very, very scared. But one has to be logical. One has to be, the doctor I had was very good, and my gynecologist was very good. And they explained to me that I would go into early menopause, which I did. And then, of course, would have to go on to hormone replacement therapy, which I did. And my mom was very supportive. She helped me go through that decision. She didn't like the decision initially, of course, but then she understood why I did it, because of the logical reason. And I haven't regretted that decision ever. Now, I'm actually very grateful now with the cost of living and with schooling. You know, I look at today and I think just how some people, how do they cope with children, with the cost of living now? It must be so, so difficult. But don't ever be afraid of not making that decision. It has to be a dual decision between you and your partner.
That's the empowerment behind it. It's actually what makes me smile. The fact that you were empowered and supported to take a decision that was very important, although difficult and challenging. It was very important, but yet you were empowered by the people around you. And for me, that's the highlight. A lot of people do not have that. They just get dictated as to what they should do with their condition and what they're allowed or what they're not allowed to. You know, and for me, that's the educational side of things. And thank you so much for joining us today, Leslie.
No, thank you. It's
Thank you
hard
so
to
much,
share.
Leslie.
A lot of people don't know that story, but I think it's so important that women of today do, is because they think that medication obviously can affect your seizures a lot. We all know that. But the actual childbearing decision, I think, must be for the mother concerned and the partner. Obviously, if there is a partner, sometimes there isn't, but it's a dual decision in a marriage. And I think that is so important.
So let's give maybe Dr. Gamasi to explain example of this challenge of woman conception, for example, for his experience, because I saw him is still available.
Yes, I'm still available.
Yeah, I have a question for doctors now, because we speak as a patient. If we can go back to any of the doctors, members of or executive team, to explain exactly that challenge on the side effect of the drugs, which may affect sometimes the hormone of the woman, the fertility, how you are perceiving for people to use Depakin, for example, and they are pregnant, and you know that those people can have a child with epilepsy because they don't have another prescribed drug. So that challenge affects many doctors who do not want to commit such mistake. Can you explain it to us? Thank you.
Yes, it is a very big challenge for us, because basically most of the anti-epileptic drugs, anti-seizure medication available can have impact on the fertility and also during the pregnancy. And we know that Depakin sodium valproate, it is almost forbidden for women of childbearing age, except if you don't have any other choice. And according to this, I would like to tell you a story of a lady I received a month ago. She was transferred to me by the maternity because she was followed for epilepsy for almost 5 years, she was placed on Depakin with a good response with Depakin, seizure freedom for more than 2 years, and she get pregnant. And you know, when educated people are getting pregnant because she was educated, she started reading the notice of the drugs. And she discovered by herself that Depakin is not recommended at all for women in childbearing age. So she assumed to stop by herself the Depakin. She was at 35 weeks of pregnancy. And at 37 weeks, she had a status epilepticus, which is repetitive tonic-clonic seizures, which was not really easy to control by the gynecologist. So that's why they refer her to me. But because of the recurrent seizure, they decide to do a cesarean section to remove the baby. Unfortunately, the baby died. So she lost her baby at the last days of the pregnancy, and she resumed with the seizure. So this is a kind of story we face every day, because when they are aware of the risk of the drugs, it is not easy to follow them. That's why what we recommend to our colleagues is to explain every details. When you give a prescription, you have to explain any details to the patient about the risk, about the side effect, about the different recommendation, and even about the efficacy of the drugs. So that is a case we face every day. So unfortunately for her, she lost her baby, but in some of those patients, they can go to the term of the pregnancy and have good babies.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that we need to know that sometimes the challenge coming with the national cares for epilepsy in our country, that's why the recommendation on the resolution of the WHO was to push the agendas of the youth in the country to do such awareness. Because those youth who are coming today maybe they are 20, they are starting university, have those challenges of starting sex before marriage, but under the anti-epileptic drugs, they need to know that this and this can happen. So in case they are on topiramax or Depakin, they have to have a planning family, a pill, birth control pill, and they have also to know that this person consuming those drugs, they have to be also under some vitamin, like to improve their own iron, because the dizziness affect them on daily basis. So that's why to prevent the sudden death, every time they talk about sudden death, but in Africa, we have millions who are dying every day by epilepsy, even through the labors. Yeah. And I think that we need to congratulate many countries now who introducing the C-section on those women to deliver regularly on time and to follow the pregnancy. And that happened in my country now, they follow them. And I think that is a good on prevention of the epilepsy, even for the woman and even the child. But some women are still consuming Depakin, which we are still fighting for it to get removed completely on women. No woman to consume it during his pregnancy or topiramax. Yeah. So let me give a few minutes also for Roslyn Kirangu. She's a woman with epilepsy based in Kenya, but she used also to request this webinar. This webinar belongs to you because you have something special to speak about. And it's you who's supposed to start, not us. Yeah, I'm sorry for that. Yeah. Thank you so much. Please carry on.
Thank you very much, everybody. And I'm also very much excited because when I thought of when we were celebrating the International Women's Day, I thought about it. I said, okay, this is okay. I'm a woman living with epilepsy. So if can we share stories or maybe experiences of living with epilepsy as women? And I'm grateful very much, Chantel, because you brought out this webinar and facilitated it. So I'm very grateful. You are a big sister to us, and I said, okay, epilepsy has its own in conceptions where there are so many misconceptions about epilepsy, but as a woman, how do you relate it? How do we relate to this? And when I visited my doctor this just recently, I told them, and he told me, Roslyn, first of all, there are many ladies who are not coming out to admit they are living with epilepsy, but they are raising their families. They are saying, I will not, this is something I'll take to my grave. But they are raising their healthy children. And I asked my doctor, can we have a sorority to talk about epilepsy as ladies? How is it? How do you deal with it? And of course, there are certain things we cannot that cannot be. As a woman on treatment with epilepsy, those medications have their side effects. Maybe your hormones are not as you don't get excited sexually like other ladies who are not under treatment for epilepsy. And I thought about, and those are taboo topics to talk about as African ladies. Then again, as an African lady, you are expected to, as I'm a single lady, so I'm expected to be helping around the house, doing my chores in the house, helping my mother. And how do you keep yourself safe as you conduct your chores? Which are the security measures that you should use to prevent yourself from, in case you got a seizure? What are the precautions you should take as a person living with epilepsy and conducting your chores? For instance, Leslie, sometimes we can be cooking in the open firewood kitchen. And Leslie, you know, you've been in Zimbabwe, so we can. How do you do this? Should you be in the kitchen preparing food? What are the precautions? So those are because there are people who have been injured. I've come in the neighborhood I'm living in. There's a lady who got some burns because she was doing her chores, preparing her lunch, and nobody was in the house, and she got some burns. And looking at the outward look, how we see our beauty should be, we should not have some marks. Epilepsy makes you, it makes her feel like I should lock myself in the house. I should lock myself in the house to not be seen by people, because people will stare at me. I have scars, maybe from burns, and I might have maybe I bite myself on the lips, so my lips can be swollen. I can be having maybe some broken teeth somewhere. So all these things are things that we, as a woman living with epilepsy, I've seen people living with them, and I take time to visit them and share with them that we are sisters, and whatever makes or the beauty is from the inside, that you can actually you may not be the models the models of that are on the catwalk with flawless skin and all that, but you are actually very, 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 you're still beautiful. I'm telling ladies who have gotten scars, maybe they've gotten some scars. They right now they are on treatment, and they don't have seizures, but because of how we idolize the beautiful, flawless skin, the light skin. As Africans, we wish we have that light skin, we have that makeup, we are idolizing that cosmetic face. I'm encouraging ourselves to come out and tell others that the beauty is not from the idolizing the flawless skin and the beautiful lips and the wonderful figure, but that your beauty is coming from within. So that is one thing I've seen as a woman when we have when we are idolizing, because we are idolizing that beauty. Beauty is the flawless skin, but we need to set our message to others who have had that misfortune of getting a burn, getting an injury, having the teeth broken, having the lips swollen because maybe you had your seizure, the lips are not as they are swollen. So you kind of feel down about how you feel about yourself. So that is one of the things that I wanted to raise as a concern, because when I visited my friend, she's Mary is just a neighbor from within, and I thank God because nobody would have told me that Mary is living with epilepsy, because I was also not talking about epilepsy as a person to my friends. Only the people who are formerly in high school knew that I had epilepsy. But once I finished high school, that topic went. I didn't have that chance. I wasn't having that confidence to talk about epilepsy. So talking about epilepsy and sharing with my neighbors, they checked me out and they thought, oh, she doesn't look mad. She doesn't look funny. She's not very. She's not a mad person. She's not cursed. She goes to church. She prays. She leads praise and worship. She teaches Sunday school. So how come she's having epilepsy? And people started realizing, okay, people living with epilepsy can live a full life. They can live a full life. It doesn't matter your background. You can go to school. You can achieve your dreams. So once I started talking and telling them, if you see somebody has dropped, call me. They may not have epilepsy. They might be fainting because of a different reason, but let me know. let me know. I'll give you a gift for letting me know that so and so dropped. Because people don't want to talk about it. But if you are telling them, okay, I'll give you some gift, I'll give you a piece of flour, yeah, then with the high cost of living, we will get more people to come out and say, okay, some will say, I want this matter to remain private. Somebody will say, this one, I want it to deal with it privately, but so don't announce to others. But at least once we are talking to each other, you are sharing your views about living with epilepsy, I'm sharing mine, then they'll feel comfortable to talk about epilepsy, because we are talking about it. There's not a day that passes that the day ends without you talking about epilepsy, and showing people that you're not a drug addict. That some people assume that it's you abused drugs, that's why you got epilepsy, but that's not the case. So I'm happy for the progress I've made, because people know me to be a born-again Christian. I don't take drugs. I don't. We have been raised in church, in the Anglican Church, so we are not witchcraft. We are not practicing witchcraft, or we are doing curses or anything like that. I knew my grandmother who has passed away, Edith. My grandmother Edith, she was a born-again Christian in an Anglican church. So we don't. People know, as in, I've used my background to show people that it's not witchcraft. So I'm glad to share my experience of living with epilepsy. Others have used this living with epilepsy to benefit them, or to make me look like I have I have a disadvantage, because I started a school in another county called Kiambu County. Right now I'm in another county, Nakuru. Nakuru is my home county, but I started a kindergarten for a children home in Kiambu County, and
I think the connection is a little bit weak.
The school was established and were flowing. Okay, Roslyn, they didn't even say. So they didn't say, Roslyn, your connection is beating you. So eventually I realized that they are managing the school without me, but and that is what triggered me to say, okay, Roslyn, teach about epilepsy, because people don't understand. People take advantage, and they use those, and I thank God, because they take advantage, and I thank God, because now I'm seeing I'm in self-employment, so I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That is a great testimony to show that you can motivate everyone to speak about his experience with epilepsy in your community. And I think that the way you drive your community, I saw even on epilepsy last time, you look like you are in the high street in your country with the flyers. Some people pass around without even knowing, but you have got a crowd of people with you. That is a discipleship. And we learn in Christianity-based ground that discipleship is very important, and we transfer it from generation to generation. And for me, I think that is a good, it shows your leadership through that community. You are bringing good for people. And even what Bernard did also by helping youth move, etc. We saw his remarkable job. Even Fred is not here. Fred was a foundation. He be also a man with epilepsy in Kenya. So we start to see the shining example of the Kenyan communities. That's now patient and not fears. Like in Rwanda, you can see myself do that as a strong propaganda, but you don't see another Chantal. But if you see, for example, for Kenya, we have we have Bernard Mbuya, Frederick Beuchi, the national coordination for epilepsy from Dr. Chengo to the new one. So this ideology comes from Dr. Paul, who passed away, is still alive. And that legacy is changing life of people. And that inspiration from you, keep inspiring me, keep inspiring Enat, keep inspiring Adam Jallo and others, even doctors who are here. They are motivated, they see that our patients are doing well and they are living. They are not constantly begging for food. They have profession. And I can ask also Enat to end a little bit. I can give her maybe 10 minutes, then we pass to the presentation because the time is running.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Okay, Rosalie, you're just amazing, absolutely amazing. And yes, you are beautiful, and definitely. And thank you so much for the passion and what you shared with us. I'm so sorry earlier, the link just got interrupted. I had to get password from Jacob to reconnect again. So I'm sorry about that. Anyway, coming back to you. So basically,
1 minute. Can we answer Valant? You are presenting after Enat, please. Yeah.
Okay. Then after the 5 years, my medication reasonably controlled my seizure, and living with epilepsy and accepting it, and with the support of friends, support of family, and my own spiritual walk, all that strength has kept me going and living a productive life with epilepsy. So about 8 years ago, I went back to Ethiopia and I've started a charity called Care Epilepsy. So basically the idea is, one is to raise awareness, public education. It's only through education that we can change the stigma of epilepsy in Africa, or anywhere else for that matter in the world. So really our motto is education, education, education. So we teach at schools, we teach on the street, we teach on, in health centers, hospitals, football stadiums, in different venues where we get the opportunities, just educating people. And then also our charity gives clinical support. We have volunteer neurologists that come and work with us, but we have health officers that work from Monday to Saturday. And also we use the media, TV, radio, and obviously social media to raise awareness about epilepsy and education. We do different leaflets and posters about educating people about epilepsy in different languages that's spoken in Ethiopia. So really, I live to be an advocate for epilepsy, and I really, my hope is, even if I die after that, one day epilepsy will be considered as as a normal health condition, and people with epilepsy, children, women with epilepsy, will not go through the suffering and the stigma and the exclusion that we're going through right now. I've met with so many women who've been burned because of open fire, cooking in the open fire, and we haven't had any support to to even work with other NGOs or international companies and organizations to support them to have a better safety, better safe cooking measure or cooking like stoves and that kind of thing to purchase for them. But getting partners to work within epilepsy, it is very, very difficult in Ethiopia. I used to think the stigma was only against an individual, a person, but my experience of 8 years is also the stigma is against organizations as well that work, or charities that work with people with epilepsy. So for example, when I go and talk to UNICEF or different organizations, oh yeah, we support children, but not children with epilepsy. So the moment you add the epilepsy word into it, even the world doesn't want to know. The world that works in Africa doesn't want to know. So that means it's up to us to change stigma. It's up to us to change legislation. It's up to us to work together and make Africa a better place for people living with epilepsy. And I am privileged to be working with you guys, to be an advocate and serve the epilepsy community everywhere in Africa. So thank you very much for this opportunity, Chantel.
Thank you so much. And I know that you still have a big battle for Ethiopia and other countries of Africa. And together we're gonna make a step for that. We're planning to do a fundraising, but I wish now with the voice we raise through the Marrakesh Congress, etc., and other partners we found, I know that something will come positively out of that. Thank you for that. Let me give now the last word of presentation to our guest. She's part of a resource center of epilepsy in Zimbabwe. And she's been also recommended by Dr. Jacob Mugumbate, and I think that those are the one who represent his organization. Her name is Tanaka Magazine, if I pronounce it, Magazire. And I wish you a good luck. It's the first time presenting through this panel. Thank you. And if you have any question, you can ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Chantel. Greetings to you all. My name is Tanaka Magazire from Epilepsy Resource Center, Zimbabwe. Thank you, guys. I'm not going to take much of your time, as much has been said. So my presentation is going to summarize the stories that were being shared by the strong women. Thank you. You are so strong, and I'm proud of you. So I'm having some network challenges this side. I'm going to turn this video for a few minutes so that you can see me. Then I will turn it off. Sorry guys for the inconvenience caused. So I'm going to turn on the video now. Hello guys,
Hello.
I'm Tanaka.
Hello and nice to meet you. You're beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to switch off my video now.
Yeah.
But
So
send us your
I'm going
picture
to.
too. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Pardon.
You can go ahead.
You can send us your picture, then we can keep you on record. So.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to present about women, marriage, and epilepsy. As I said earlier on, it's just a summary of the stories that were being shared here. So I'm going to give some definition of terms. I'm going to define the term woman, marriage, and epilepsy. A woman is an adult female human, and marriage is marriage is a legally and socially sanctioned union between men and women that is registered by the laws, rules, customs, beliefs, and attitudes that prescribe the rights and duties of the partners and accord status to the offspring, if any. Then epilepsy, I think we are familiar with the definition of epilepsy, so I'm just going to define it. Epilepsy is a neurological condition characterized by unprovoked recurrent seizures. Now I'm moving on to the challenges that are faced by women with epilepsy, and many challenges have been mentioned here. The challenges that are faced by women with epilepsy, there is social labeling. Within our society, there is a lot of social labeling, which can lead to a stigma, and this diminishes and gives a lot of negativity to women with epilepsy. There is also reduced the marital prospects. I was listening to some shared stories, and someone was saying I was divorced. So many women with epilepsy, they tend to have reduced marital prospects. Studies have shown that in Africa, women with epilepsy, they tend not to get into marriages. Some they are afraid, some they get into marriages, but later on they are divorced. Why? Because some of them, they don't disclose their situations. They are afraid of marriage negotiations. And also we have poor marital outcomes. As I said earlier, there's also dependence syndrome. A lot has to be done in Africa as a woman with epilepsy. Some of them, they tend to take advantage of their condition in a way that they don't want to empower themselves. They don't want to work. Yes, there are some scenarios that they face some challenges in getting employment, but some of them, they create dependence syndrome. They just want a thank you. They tend to take advantage of their condition. And also we have possible challenges with pregnancy. I think this point has been said earlier. And also there is possible challenges with child care. There is lack of specialized treatment on women with epilepsy. Moving on to factors that influence marriage prospects for women with epilepsy, we have culture. There are several myths and misconceptions surrounding the word epilepsy. There is also insufficient knowledge about epilepsy that have been associated with a negative attitudes and beliefs. Also, some cultures, they say women with epilepsy should not marry as they will bear children with the same condition. And this affects the marital prospects of women with epilepsy. Moving on to, some cultures believe that epilepsy affects the conjugal rights, the conjugal problems in women the most. Factors that I'm still on factors that influence the marriage prospects for women with epilepsy. We have social labeling. I mentioned it before as a challenge affecting women with epilepsy, right? So women with epilepsy face stigma in the context of marriage. This destroys a person's dignity, marginalizes affected person, and also this diminishes the chances of stigmatized person of achieving a full potential. Also, we have non-disclosure, whereby most women, as I said earlier, most women with epilepsy are afraid of disclosing their condition, as they are afraid or worried about the marriage negotiations. And this leads to anticipated breakups. So what needs to be done? There is need for community and national campaigns. There is need for international and regional campaigns. There is need for further efforts to raise women's rights and social status. There is need for family counseling. There is need for social work and support. And also there is need for government commitment. So a lot has to be done in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that challenge I found, many women who have epilepsy sometimes, in Africa, I found some of them become lazy because they did not believe on themselves anymore. And some, because of the cares of the family constantly, they keep just waiting for help for everything. I think that the motivation on them when they see us as a entrepreneurial, independent women, they found that, oh, as ourselves, we can do it. And I think that we can reverse it with time to time. But we need also to know that in terms of epilepsy, sometimes anxieties, disorders emerge because that person is afraid to agree that to accept that she can make something in her life. And the self-esteem she's been raising in her community push her down at the point that she doesn't believe even she's beautiful. She agreed that any man can come access my life and go. But normally, a woman with epilepsy need to know that he's a strong warrior. He fought for his life to be alive, and he deserves better for the rest of their life. I can give also a word for Dr. Mugumbate also to speak, and also other who are requesting to raise some issues. Yeah, they can ask a question and raise their hand. We're gonna give them a time to present. Thank you.
Thank you, Chandel. I don't have much to say. I was listening to all the speakers. Wish to thank everyone for the strength to share their experiences. Roslyn, it was good to hear from you. Thanks so much. I also learned a lot from you and what you are doing, especially in terms of income and employment. I think that was excellent. From Leslie, I think I did enjoy you sharing your own experience and your own journey, and I think that's big motivation to other people. I also did like Tanaka. As presentation, looking at the general issues women with epilepsy face, but particularly what we need to do at different levels. It's important that we do work at the local level, we do work at the national level, but we also do more awareness campaigns at the global level. It's really something that we need to be doing. And as organizers of this webinar, Chantel and your team, thanks so much. I think that's part of what Tanaka was talking about. We need to be doing work to raise awareness. There were also great lessons from what you said, Dr. Mercy, about what doctors are doing, but also Adam, the story of your mother and your brother. I think those are all important stories that motivate us to do more in terms of epilepsy. And not forgetting what you said, Bernard from Kenya. It's also really great to be talking about your personal life, sharing with people so that there are lessons that could benefit others. I think that's the courage that is required. from everyone. Thanks again for the opportunity, and also from Annette, the work that you are doing in Ethiopia, creating an association as a person with epilepsy. I think it speaks of resilience, but also it speaks of giving back to community, giving back to society. Chantel, you were talking earlier about the value that is in us of Ubuntu. Ubuntu, Vumundu, Boto, and all this. There are different names for it in different countries, from Cameroon to Gambia to South Africa. It's all about the need to be helpful to family, to community, to country, and to the world. And I think those are the values that to keep us going. So thanks again for the opportunity, Chantel.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you. It's a good summary. So
that's
do you
all
have
right. Sorry,
any
I kept my video off.
Thank you, Jacob. It's always inspiring to hear from you. Thank you for joining us today. I have to commend you and Bernard for being here. I always say that, you know, we are equal partners. Wherever you see a woman, we cannot go on our own, just like men cannot go on their own. We always need your support, and I commend the two of you being here with us today. Thank you so much.
And also for learning about the Pan-African movement. It's very important, the way we do those research with your help, because the presentation you did in Rwanda regarding Ubuntu, they found it in South Africa name language Zulu, they found it in West Africa, Cameroon, etc. They were impressed because they never see such research. And they did not know that there is a commodities in many languages of Africa. We are coming from same ancestors. So we don't need to say that I'm from East and West. That is just to divide us. And I think that the unities of Africa actually is to believe on ourselves that we are capable of changing the futures. And inside or key members politically, etc., like you saw the hard work done by the First Lady of Gambia. For me, I congratulate that woman, because I come to find that even the way we did the Congress in Marrakesh with Enat, etc., they congratulate all of us. I congratulated all of you. That reward belongs to the Alliance of Africa. It's not myself, it's for all of us who fought for the right of the patient. And I can say that regarding it, even Burundi now asked to be part of the Alliance of Africa. And for the moment, even people are not certain about what we are doing. This organization has a great grassroots grant. It's already established where people believe it. And by believing the value we have, so many people start to detach themselves to those who are lying as a stakeholder to help Africa. And now they start to rely on us. Imagine even in Marrakesh, many organizations come is for you to lead us and to help us. So this is a point where you see a professor doctors like Najib, Dr. Najib, include Mugumbate, include Dr. Daniel, Kazadis, include also us who are champion of raising awareness and have association like Adam and Enat, Roslyn, Buya, etc., the Youth Move, etc. I cannot say all of them because we are many now. We are more than 40. And I think that congratulations to all of you, because this thing, we're gonna champion it and we're gonna make it bright for the future of Africa. And I think legacy remain and history remain. When you died, you leave something behind, you make change to your community. That is much more important, but keeping the health big. That health will vanish. Even you leave it to your child, they misuse it and it becomes zero. But the wealth you keep for your country is to have to commit to a change in that country and to commit to your citizen. Thank you so much. I finished. So anyone has something to ask about, because we remain with 13 minutes?
I think there was somebody who said they're waiting. Is it Valant?
There was Valant wanted to speak. Can you give her a chance?
Yes, yeah.
You have forgotten Valant.
Valant, please speak up.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy. I am so happy to join you today and to meet new faces who are doing whatever we are doing, also like-minded people. And I think this is the way to go. I was so much touched with the story of Jalo, and I think she just reminded me about my mother. With epilepsy, as a woman with epilepsy, if you don't have a caring and concerned family members, I think you cannot survive. It cannot be easy for you to survive. So I will send you to your mother. If you see her, give a very warm hug from me, because of the good work that she has done. I'm so glad also to meet my my mentor, Bernard, who is here also. Yeah, we started an organization with him the first time, and he mentored me until I started my own organization. At the moment, I'm running an organization in Kenya, dealing with epilepsy, Geno Epilepsy Center for Empowerment. As a woman with epilepsy who has gone through the challenges, different challenges women with epilepsy go through, I think with this organization, it has really helped me to stand firm as a woman with epilepsy, to be firm in my decisions and anything that I do, and also most importantly, to inspire other women like me, other women with epilepsy like me, especially the young women who had given up in life. And I thank you for that. So to everyone else, to Chantal, thank you so much for inviting us for this webinar. And I think we should organize more of such, so that we can get inspired. If you follow me keenly on Facebook, I always discuss some sensitive topics on my Facebook page, like the one we are discussing today, because I've realized that most of the time we have women with epilepsy, we have so many challenges. So for example, I always talk about women with epilepsy and the sex, women with epilepsy and marriage. And I've realized that there are so many questions and concern whether a woman with epilepsy can get married, whether a woman with epilepsy can have children normally, or must it be through cesarean sections, whether a woman with epilepsy can also have sex. So I think if you follow me keenly, you seen people asking me, or rather discussing, asking me to discuss some such kind of questions. Next time, I'll also invite you, so that when somebody asks me such kind of question, we can organize a webinar also, so that we can discuss about it and talk about it, so that the society can also understand and see that a woman with epilepsy is also like a woman like any other. Otherwise, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I saw you very, very, very entertaining, and I saw your mom, how she is helping you. That bring me a great motivation to keep you in the platform, because I saw your family is behind everything you did. And I thanks also the Raw Foundation for giving you some medication for your people. And we need also to recognize also those who rescue us and help us. And I think we are very, very thankful for Lori Lauren as a woman also. She's from American, members of the Raw Foundation executive, but every time when we present someone or someone from this platform requests something, she doesn't hesitate and she's helping. And I think that shows the input of women in the globe, and we need to respect women, as our ancestors said that the mother of Africa is women. So women are everything. So without women, there could not be kingdom. Without women, there could not be a king or a monarchy very powerful in Africa. And I think even historically, in any tribe, there is a night time where they celebrate women, because women give a blessing to the land. Without women, you cannot have a rain, etc., according to the culture of many African. And I think that, thank you so much for what you have done. And
Rachel, I want to say something.
Yeah, let Mbuya speak about something. Thank you.
Okay, as my final remarks, I want to congratulate all the women who have found time to be in this meeting today. In fact, you are so wonderful women. As a man, I see very wonderful women and very strong women to the cause of fighting epilepsy. And I with the women in this cause, I know we are going to win. And
yeah, we're gonna win. We don't let we don't let demon discourage us. We are unity. We're gonna win.
Everything with women in the forefront is always a success, because I know you are resilient always.
Okay, like you believe your mom.
Thank you. Yeah.
So now on the question.
Chantal,
yes.
I've lost my video. I don't know what's happened to my video. Okay. When you brought up cooking and burns and fires regarding, I know the African culture is very, very different to ours. All right. I've had some very bad accidents in the past, obviously, with no warning from seizures. My husband and I have an understanding that he does the cooking and then I do the washing up of the dishes.
Yeah, that's makes sense.
So I know that the custom is very different for the African people, because having lived in Zimbabwe and South Africa for so many years. But I think that when a couple is married and there's an amicable agreement, I think that the husband should actually try and help the woman if she's the one with epilepsy, and the other way around, especially in the kitchen, because I know that I've had a lot of accidents with pots and pans and cups of coffee and tea. And, it has been very, very helpful having my husband now do the cooking. And then I'm the one that does the cleaning up and does the washing of the dishes and cleans the kitchen. And that has helped a lot. It keeps me out the kitchen and it keeps me away from being hurt. Obviously, other seizures is different. I've done all sorts of funny things. But I think the kitchen is very, very important for a couple, especially for the wife.
Normally the kitchen is a challenge if the seizures is not controlled 100% by the medication, like be free of seizures more than 1 year, 2 years. It's not good to go to cook. And every time you go to cook, you need to have an assistant who is beside you to be careful about anything happening. But I did recommend many parents not to send the children to cook with the fires as long as they're underage, they're on seizures, they have the medication heavy on them. Sometimes it's not only a seizure attack, sometimes can be also a sort of dizziness, which can lead someone to that incident. And I did recommend also parents not to let the child get water in the river alone, because they can have a seizures, and they can be swollen by the rivers, like accident, etc. But for me, I think that all of us, we need to be careful, even at work, when you work on industry like construction, because I found a man who be doing the roof, but one time he fell down and get injury. I recommend his wife for that man not to do that job. The wife say, so how can we eat? How can we have a food? But normally on legislation in UK, if you have epilepsy, you cannot go on any type of construction job. So there is a limit on heavy machinery, etc. Even the driving license can be withdrawn for someone who has a seizures. Yeah.
For example, in my case, I had to quit my job because of my seizures. I used to work as a machine operator in a printing industry, but I had to quit that job because I could not continue working in that environment because of the heavy machines around.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. The way you promote yourself. Thank you.
Yeah.
Another question? We finish.
I think from my end, it would actually be a comment of everything that we have discussed today. I commend the Epilepsy Alliance Africa and Chantel especially Chantel and Rosalind, who came up with this webinar. We should have more of this. There's a lot of educational information on this webinar, and I'm hoping that it can be shared as much as possible. And my comment will be regarding the eye gap that everybody is talking about 80% of people living with epilepsy, knowing their diagnosis. Everything here we have discussed today will bring us back to, as Annette mentioned, education, education, education. That's the only way we can change things for the people that we represent. So I commend everybody today. I have learned a lot here today, and the stories are similar. It's all about the burnt stories, the divorce stories, the rape cases. We all hear the same stories. We all come across the same stories. So education, it's very important, and that's the only way that we are going to win on this fight. So thank you, everyone. I wouldn't miss this webinar for anything, and it has proven to be very educative. I'm really excited to where we can take this. And thank you, everyone, for the work that each and every individual is doing in their own countries. Together, we will win this fight. Just like Jacob always says, togetherness. We if we come together, we achieve more and we win. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. So we can give a close remark to Dr. Daniel, and we finish now. Dr. Daniel is there? Enat, can you give the close remark and then we go? Thank you so much. She's not there, Enat?
Let me see. No, she's not. Not at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. So what we can do for us, because this is recorded through YouTube and is very important for all of you who are raising awareness through school, you can be playing such great story as a record when you teach students so they can understand, they can comprehend how to do advocacy and how to raise awareness for particular people, because we cover the story of Leslie. He's an old woman under the anti-epileptic drugs. We cover the middle age like Rosalind, Valance, Rosalind and I, and your brother. This part is not here, Adam brothers. And we cover also the young, like a Valance also. So that may give people example, the general idea how to advocate. And because we cover the fertility, we cover that epilepsy is not contagious, it's not a cast, which medication is good for an epileptic, how to get that legislation right through the education program, what is Ubuntu as a social care policies in Africa, and what Dr. Daniel Gammasi spoke about. Women need to be vigilant about the anti-epileptic drugs they are taking while they are suing to have a baby. Thank you so much for everyone, every country participation. And I think that will remain together as an Alliance of Africa for Epilepsy and fight for the rights and legislation well-being of patients. Thank you so much. And thank you for my birthday, Adam and others. Leslie, thank you for wishing me a great.
Now you can enjoy the rest of your birthday. Thank you, everyone, and hope to see you again.
I'm